Hi, Jack.
Hey, what's up?
Jack, you sound like you have a little cold.
I do have a
Okay.
little cold, yeah, unfortunately. I think the cold weather here got me, unfortunately, but
Okay.
we'll be fine.
Well, welcome to the Ground Pass podcast. How about you introduce yourself? Tell people who you are.
Yeah, so my name's Jack Pinnington Jones. I'm 21 years old and from London, England, and a tennis player.
And a tennis player. So I'm meeting you here. We are in Champaign, Illinois at the Challenger here, one of the last ones of the year, at least stateside. What are you doing here?
Well, as you said, competing in the Challenger, trying to finish off a good little 2024 season. So that's the goal. It's so far so good. I'm in the quarterfinals tomorrow, so hopefully you can keep it rolling and finish hopefully strong ending to the year.
Awesome. So you said you're from London, but we're in Champaign, Illinois. Are you just traveling, or how did you get here?
Well, I've been in the States for 2 months now. I've done the whole American swing. I was in Europe pretty much the whole summer, back in London after the Wimbledon grass season. And since then, since maybe early September, I've been stateside. I go to school at TCU, so I've been in and out there. That's sort of where I've based myself in between weeks. And yeah, just been everywhere in the States now, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, South, sort of been everywhere, but it's been good.
Okay. I mean, I've sort of talked to a few different players here, and it's really interesting because I think everyone has a completely different background. You are a college athlete that is completely different. So how are you balancing that? Because you're a college athlete, so you obviously play for the team at TCU, but then you're also playing on the Pro Tour, the Challenger Tour. How does that balance out for you?
I mean, it's pretty good how it's been structured. January to May is like our college athletics sort of season within tennis. So you're pretty team focused. Maybe if you're lucky and you can, depending how your schedule lines up, you could maybe fit 1 or 2 pro tournaments in the spring from January to May. And then from May to December, it's sort of, do your thing. You want to play, you want to go back to school from August to December and study and play some college tournaments, it's up to you. And I think I decided to play pretty much. I played, I think, 13 tournaments now this year. I actually played 0 from January to May. So from June onwards, I basically played 13 tournaments. So it's been pretty full on for me. It's half a year. It means, I'd probably play 26 if I played a full schedule, which is, it's about the right number, I think, for me. So it's been interesting, a different experience to college. As you said, like, we're living out a suitcase, tennis players, so at least in college, I have my own room, my bed, like everything's pretty structured, so that's been a different change, but I'm enjoying it. It's been nice. Like, I can't complain. The States always do a good job with all the tournaments. There's always nice hotels, and I sort of know everyone who's around, so it's like a little social group.
Good. I mean, so that's interesting because I'm guessing at TCU you have a team, so there are other players on your team. You are technically alone in the sense that you're a pro, you play singles. I think you play doubles too. I think I saw you play a doubles match. But in general, you say most of the people, you kind of travel together even though you're not. Is there that sort of still like a team atmosphere, or is it kind of you're on your own a little bit?
I don't think it's a team atmosphere. Definitely, they're not rooting for me, or I hope they're not rooting for me. It'd be a little weird, but I think it's a nice group. I think at the end of the day, tennis players are an interesting group of people, and I think we all sort of understand each other pretty well, and like we'll go to dinner sometimes, or with practice, it's always a good laugh and little things like that, just to make it not as lonely. Like, you can interact, different conversations, new people. I think that's, at least in the American side of things, those are the college players I played against from January to May are here now, so I know all of them, go out to dinner with them. I played doubles with a TCU alum who I've known 4 years, so that's always fun. So I think it's not so much a team atmosphere, but it's very, when you're here playing the matches and it's, day of the match is very businesslike, but once that's sort of done, I think everyone's gets on well with each other, and it's pretty chill.
Almost like a traveling band a little bit.
A little bit. I think especially when there's 4 weeks in a row of American Challengers and you sort of know everyone is going to play all 4. I think that's where, by week 4, I think some people are losing their minds a little bit, and I think everyone sort of tries to band together a little bit.
Yeah. So what is... let's move on to sort of like your goals and like what the Challenger circuit is about, really. So you're a college player playing Challengers. Are you hoping to go pro? Is that the goal?
Yeah, that is the goal. Eventually, I'm hoping I've got another 2 years in college if I'd like it. I'd like to see how I do and see my ranking, maybe leave early, maybe not. That's sort of just up to results and sort of a gut feeling, I imagine. But I'd say the goal is to make it, to be able to say where I play tennis and I make a living. Obviously, at Challengers, you can get by if you're in the slam qualies and you can do okay for yourself, but you're not truly, I don't think, making a living to where, you know, you're a true professional athlete where it's your livelihood. I think that's the goal for me. It always has been. I'd love to do tennis as my job for as long as I can, and I think after this year in college, I'd like to go play again, see where the ranking ends up, and then go for it. I think you know, you're only young once, and I wanna give it a go and see how far I can get.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about, you know, the Challenger circuit is not exactly where you make a living. So what do you think this circuit is for? This Challenger. Do you think it's just sort of to help build ranking points or almost build your skill as a tennis player? What do you think the Challenger level is really about?
I think it's a stepping stone. I think you have futures, which is like the very beginning where you really start out and you're just trying to get some ATP points, become ranked and all of that. And then I think when you're around, I don't want to say an exact number, but I'm sort of at the ranking where I can flip-flop between, you know, some futures where I'm maybe a higher seeded player and some challengers where I'm maybe last into main draw or playing qualies. So I'm sort of in that awkward middle ground where it's like, which schedule do you think's more beneficial to play the challengers where there's more points, but obviously tougher opponents, or the futures where, you know, it might be a bit weaker, but you've got to win a lot of matches to get some points. And I think the Challenger Tour, I believe it is the sort of the runway, I guess, to where the ATP, and you can see when players really start to do really well at Challengers consistently, I think they're ready to make that jump to where, you know, maybe they win a round in a Grand Slam or they go deeper in a 500, 250, and I think that's where once you start doing consistently very well and building your ranking, I think that's where you can see the jump. But I mean, there's always guys in Challengers usually who have done well at ATPs or maybe just coming back from an injury. So there's always, you can see the level, I think, in Challengers pretty well.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of, I mean, I know the long-term goal, the aim is to be pro and play on the ATP Tour, but do you have any plans more short-term for you?
I don't know. I mean, I like to take it a day at a time. Yeah. When I was younger, I really used to obsess about things in the future that, you know, that didn't really matter, I guess, at that moment in time. And I think since then, I've sort of tried to make it a point to take it one day, 1 week, like who knows what, you know, touch wood. I'd love to go and win this week, and that suddenly changes a lot for my ranking. I suddenly jump 200 spots. It's suddenly like, okay, maybe you can make Australia now. Like, it can really change quickly, but vice versa. I'm in the quarterfinals. It's been a good week, and I could lose in the next round, and it's like, well, actually, you went up 50 spots and you were on the right track still. So I think it's very much day by day, and I'm going back to school in January. Mm-hmm. So unless something miraculous happens and I somehow go undefeated to finish the year, I don't think that's going to change, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best thing for me. So that's sort of where my head's at.
Awesome. I love that attitude. Day by day, take it one step at a time. Is this your last tournament this year?
Technically, no. There's 2 more challenges in Mexico after this week, mm-hmm. but as you could probably sound, I don't feel amazing. So I'm gonna really compete hard this week, see how I do, and I think I'll make a decision later on if maybe it's time to cut the season a little bit early, rest, mm-hmm. see some friends. While I've been traveling so much, I've been trying to see all my friends, all my friends who go to different colleges in America, and I haven't had time. Mm-hmm. So I'd quite like maybe a week to just go and travel and see them, and then head back home to London. It would have been almost 3 months. So. Awesome. I think everyone around this stage of the year is pretty burnt out, so I don't think it's just me. No, it's across the board. Everyone I've talked to, it's like, is it the off season yet? Yeah, exactly. Sounds about right. Well, that's a question I'm very interested in, because the off season in tennis, it's very short. It seems like, and maybe you have a different schedule, but you just said, for example, your season starts in college in January. So
What does an off season look like for you, other than just like taking some time off?
I think for me it would be, let's say I play one more tournament to end the year next week. I would then take that week off, wherever I wanted to take it off. It would be my week. It would be whether I go home, whether I visit some friends, fully off, and then it's straight into pre-season where you know you're not going to play a match for maybe a month, maybe 3 weeks, depending when you start your pre-season or what your schedule looks like in January. So it would be 3 weeks, and it would be just physical work. And I don't know how a lot of people, I would like to do it where that first week I'm doing just double fitness. Maybe I'm not playing tennis to sort of rest my mind and like just getting better shape. And then the last 2 weeks, it would be the combination of fitness and tennis. I know some people like to take a really long pre-season, like maybe a 6 week just training block. For me, I think I'd lose my mind doing 6 weeks straight of just training. I think I'd really struggle. So I like to keep it a little bit shorter and sort of go from there.
Yeah.
The time off is obviously you don't get that extended break like a lot of other sports. So I think it's key when you're playing from January to December to pick the odd week here and there where you can sort of just switch off, even if things are going great, badly, or just about where you want them. I think it's important. Otherwise, you get to December, you take 1 week, and you're almost like, that wasn't enough. Like, I needed more to be able to then go again for 12 more months at the back end.
Yeah. So the sort of like the history behind Ground Pass, or at least our aim is to sort of help people get to know the rest of the tennis season other than the 4 Grand Slams.
Yeah.
Coming to a place like Champaign, Illinois, to this specific challenger, it's very small. You know, you have some people watching, not a lot. What do you think, I mean, what are people missing? Because, for example, you know, I think if people followed, you talked about sort of the 4 challengers that happened in a row, like the end of this year. I think 2 years ago, I think Ben Shelton like won all of them or something like that. And then last year was Alex Mickelson. So, and these are all names now where they're playing at Arthur Ashe and you're sitting, you know, in the top row because it's so expensive there, when you could have maybe seen him in Champaign, Illinois, really close. So what do you think the field looks like at the challenger level? Is it a breeding ground for sort of not young, new talent like you coming up? Like, you'll be playing Wimbledon next year. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. What do you think it is?
I think it's
landscape.
Yeah, I think it's great, the challenger circuit. I think when you look at the sort of, everyone has to go through it. At the end of the day, you know, some people do it, you know, maybe Nadal did it in 2 months, but you have to play them. Otherwise, you don't just start off top 100. You have to earn the right, and to do that, you have to go through the challenger circuit. And Ben Shelton, I remember I was just in college when he went on that massive run, and he basically finished his college season at, I don't know, maybe 600-ish, I guess. I'm not sure exactly, but then I remember he ended the year top 100, and it's suddenly like, well, you won't see him at a challenger again. He's completed it, he's graduated, he's going to go on to, you know, the tour. Same with Alex Mickelson, Lerner Tien. He's the one who's going to do that from, I think, this year, where you sort of see, wow, like he just tore it up, and then, you know, he's going to, hopefully for him, he'll be top 50 in the world, pushing on. But yeah, I think for the people who are interested in tennis and want to watch, I think there's always people that are going to make it that come through, and I think it gives, well, if I was promoting it, I'd say it gives the fans, especially these, I mean, this is a small challenger, it's a small little college town. I quite like the feel of it, but it's not packed crowds, it's not, you know, crazy atmosphere, which is, you know, most of the time how it works. And I think for those people that maybe are interested in tennis, show up for a day, see what you think. And I think the players are all really friendly. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any separation. Everyone's just sort of minding their business, going like on the practice court. Like, there's no real, obviously when you go to the bigger up events, there's security, you don't get any interaction with players. And I think that's something that the Challenger Tour could maybe tap into a little bit more, is definitely, you know, none of us are famous, none of us have, you know, made it yet, I guess, but hopefully, you know, someday a lot of us do. And I think this gives sort of people an insight into, oh, I remember seeing him, you know, when he was 18, I remember seeing him when he just started or just left college, and look at him now, like that sort of growth, and you could follow. And I think that's what I think the Challenger Tour can really bring in that respect.
Yeah. it seems like a really nice, like everyone, like you said, everyone just hangs out. And, I think what I've loved actually is, players are done with their matches and then they just watch the next one and then they just hang out and like become almost part of the whole environment of the Challenger. So, Jack, thank you.
No worries.
Thank you so much for joining us in Ground Pass.
Thank you for
good
having
luck.
me. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Ground Pass podcast. Introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, I'm Eliot Spizzirri. I'm from Greenwich, Connecticut. I'm 22, almost 23 years old, and I'm a professional tennis player. I graduated from the University of Texas just this past May, and I got a twin brother, younger sister, and a great family in Connecticut, and I'm enjoying the Pro Tour so far.
Well, I feel like a lot of people, especially on the East Coast, might remember you from one said U.S. Open.
Mm-hmm.
You had an epic match against Juan Fonseca, who's like an up-and-coming young Brazilian player, and you won that match. How has it been? Like, you're a newly minted pro player, experiencing moments like that. How has it been so far?
I think that was definitely the highest of the highs so far, but yeah, it's a swing. It's sometimes can be like a roller coaster. You have great weeks and challenging weeks, but I'm just trying to learn how to sort of stay steady through it all. There's weeks where you lose first round and you've got 6-7 days till your next tournament, next match, and you got to train and get back on the horse the next day and sort of try to learn from your losses. I think I'm trying not to stress too much about the results now, and it sounds cliche, but really lean into the process and watch my matches and see what decisions I made that were wrong or right, and try to dive into that stuff a little more, because if you get too caught up in the results here or there, it's tough out here. These are really good players, and anyone's capable of beating anyone at this level. And so, I think I just have to stay sort of mellow through it all. I tend to get a little bit intense sometimes, but I think the U.S. Open was definitely the highlight, just because my friends and family were there, and that's been my backyard. I trained there for many years growing up, but I've honestly just enjoyed being a professional a ton, not having to study. It feels like I'm almost on an extended summer vacation. But it's challenging. It has its difficult days like any profession, and but I'm just grateful to be doing it. This is what I love to do, and to be doing it for a living right now is really enjoyable.
That's awesome. Before we go into, because you talked about the level we're at right now, before we go into that, just backtracking a little bit, how did you get into tennis? Like, what's your tennis history?
My dad played in boarding school. He likes to think he was really good. He was a decent player. And so we belonged to a club back home in Greenwich, and I got introduced to sort of golf and tennis at the club at the same time, and then actually squash came into my life a little bit. My brother's a squash player at University of Penn, and going to be professional pretty soon. So I guess those three sports were, I was first introduced very young to them, and I gravitated towards tennis a lot. I think just because I enjoyed hitting the yellow ball, and I think I was a little better at tennis than golf and squash initially. And I also had a great coach that I found when I was really young, and I still work with him today. His name's Patrick Hirsch, and I think just being put in a really good environment when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old made me kind of love doing it. And I guess my dad introduced me, and then great mentors, coaches around me sort of helped me find that passion.
Yeah. So started when you were little, you went to college, now you're a pro. What does that involve? And I should say, we're in Champaign, Illinois. I'm meeting you here at the Champaign Challenger. For our audience, first of all, just describe, most people, I know they've seen the movie, but what is a challenger, and what has it been for you being at this level?
Yeah, a challenger is sort of the level right before the big ATP events. I'd say it's like the mid-tier. There's futures, which is sort of the lowest level of professional tennis, and then you have challengers, which is sort of guys typically ranked 100 to 400 in the world. And then the ATPs is all the top 100 guys and some a little bit outside. So I'd say most of the guys who play here are 100 to 400 in the world, and they're treating this as their living as well. So I like to compare it to golf. It's like the Corn Ferry Tour. So we're not earning our cards, but we're just trying to get points to get into ATP events. But yeah, it's been really enjoyable. It's difficult. Everybody's fighting so hard at this level because I feel like a lot of guys can sniff a breakthrough, and you've seen a lot of guys break through, and it happens at this level. And once you get to the top 100 sort of ATP level, the money's better, the hospitality's better, and maybe it's a little bit less stress. So I think everyone's fighting so hard at this level to get there, and but at the same time, the travel's fun. I get to go to a lot of cool places. I'm going to Mexico next week, and it should be really nice. And I've been to Champaign, went to Vegas for the first time this summer, Charleston. So you get to experience a lot of cool things. And something that surprised me at the Challenger Tour is just the camaraderie. It's a great group of guys here. There's a lot of college kids kind of pushing each other, great American dudes that we all have a good time, and good dinners, and it makes it a lot easier out here on tour. I think sometimes people say it can get very lonely, but if you have a good group around you, I think it's very fun.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from some people I've talked to here, because you're coming from a college system where you had teammates and you had people who you could rely on, and here you are alone, but you're almost not alone at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think college tennis is the most fun I've ever had. Having that team was amazing, and I really miss that. But as a pro, I always say you try to build your own mini team around you, and whether that's your coach, your physio, sort of the guys that you travel with. So I'm lucky enough, a couple of my teammates still travel and play professionally, and then a couple of other guys, like I just said. So yeah, we try to have this little, we call it like a traveling circus, but it's just like this group of guys that really enjoy hanging out, and we're trying to push each other to get to the next level.
Yeah. So the next level, what's the next level, especially for you? I talked about earlier in this interview, I saw you at the US Open. Do you have any sort of short-term goals, or inevitably like long-term goals as well?
I don't really make ranking goals. I don't think that's healthy for me and the key to enjoying it out here. My long-term goal is to truly try to maximize my potential and have no regrets and try to enjoy it as much as I can. I don't know how long I'll play professional tennis. It could be, a year, could be 10 years, could be 5 years. I have no idea. And so my goal is really to try to enjoy that the most I can and just try to be grateful every day for the opportunity to do this. I'm lucky to have my passion be my living in a sense, and so I'm just trying to enjoy that as much as possible, but most importantly, learn from each experience and try to maximize what I have.
Yeah. So what's next? You mentioned you're going to Mexico for a tournament next.
Yeah.
Is that your last tournament of the year?
Yeah, a lot of the guys here, I'd say this Challenger is their last tournament of the year. A few are going to Mexico for a little bit of a lower level Challenger, and that'll be my last week of the year, and then I'll take Thanksgiving off, enjoy a little off season, and then you get right back on the horse for preseason and try to get ready for a big 2025.
What's your preseason like? I've heard different variations of preseasons. What's yours going to be like?
I haven't gotten it set in stone. This will be my first preseason as a professional. In college, I would do my own mini preseason, but I'm going to hit the gym pretty hard. It's going to be really difficult, going to push the body and the mind to limits I probably haven't been pushed, but that'll help me for this whole next year and get me in great shape, and hopefully give me the confidence to make a push next year. And I think it's gonna be challenging for sure. Yeah.
Well, good luck with all of that. Hope you have at least a rest during Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I will.
And good luck at the rest of the tournament because you're still in it.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you. Welcome to the Ground Pass podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Nishesh Basavareddy. I'm 19, from Indiana. I was born in Southern California and moved to Indiana when I was 8. And I've spent the last 2 years going to Stanford, and I'm currently taking the fall quarter off and playing more pro events since I finished season up in May, and yeah.
Awesome. So I'm talking to you. We're in Champaign, Illinois. We're at one of the final, I guess it's the final challenger in the States, and it's the end of the season. We're in November. What has your season been like? You mentioned you're a college player, so what has that meant for you throughout the year?
Yeah, so our spring season's January to May, so I was playing predominantly just college matches. In that stretch, I played 2 or 3 pro events from January to May, and then once I finished up NCAA individual tournament, I've been playing a bunch of challengers since May, and I also got to play in the U.S. Open qualies this year, which was really cool. But yeah, for the last 5 months, I've been a full-time pro player for the first time in my life, and yeah, I've been having some good results and broken to top 200 recently, so it's been a good.
How? I mean, you're 19 years old. What has it been like saying you're a pro tennis player?
Yeah, it's pretty weird, I guess, to have a job at 19, a full-time job, I guess, and be like traveling the world, playing pro tournaments. So it's pretty cool, though. It's been my dream since I was young. So
yeah, are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. It's been fun traveling with my brother and my parents also sometimes in the States. So it's been kind of fun just being with my family, and I'm excited for next year as well, traveling to a lot of different countries and.
Awesome. So how did you, I mean, you're only 19, so you probably just started playing. Did you start playing tennis early? Like, what's a little bit of your tennis history?
Yeah, I started playing tennis, like the first time a racket was in my hands was probably like 3 years old. When I was in California, my dad played racket recreationally, and my brother, I have an older brother who's 3 years old, 3 years older than me, sorry.
Yeah.
So I would just follow him on the court and slowly picked it up then. And I played tennis and soccer till I was 8 or 9 years old, and then just started playing only tennis.
Yeah.
From then.
And you always knew you wanted to be a pro tennis player?
I guess when you're young, everybody says that, but you never really believe it, I guess, until you start traveling, maybe for like the international junior events is probably when I first realized that it could really be, my dream could really come true. But yeah, I feel like I've always had those aspirations.
Awesome. I mean, so you go to Stanford, so you're used to playing on sort of a team in a team environment while you're playing tennis. What has that transition been like for you going onto the pro tour? Has it been similar because you have your family around, or how is it different?
Yeah, I mean, in juniors, we're alone as well, and then you kind of get adapted to the team environment in college. It's easy to get pumped up. You're playing dual matches with your best friends. So I think that was a really cool experience for a couple of years. But yeah, I think I got acclimated to sort of the individuality again this summer, and it was a pretty smooth transition. I feel like, I mean, you still have your coaches and your support staff always cheering you on, but you kind of have to get the energy from yourself, and you're the only one out there, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
For sure.
So a lot of our audience might not know about challenger level tennis. You know, they've watched the movie, they haven't really been to one of these events before. What has it been like being on the challenger tour? Have you played main tour events as well?
I haven't played any ATP events yet. I've played the US Open qualies.
Okay.
That's been my only non-challenger event.
Okay, so how has the challenger level been for you so far?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously haven't played any main tour events like you said, but a lot of guys in these tournaments have, and from what I've heard, like the challenger level is really high. Obviously, the ATP level is another step up, but there are a bunch of good players in these events that play a mix of ATPs and challengers throughout the year. So the levels are really high here, and you get a lot of experience playing against guys that are playing year-round and are really experienced. So I think it's definitely important to get this experience under your belt before you sort of move up to the next step. But yeah, it's been a cool experience. Some tournaments there's more fans than others, so in those tournaments it's fun to play in. But yeah, it's been fun.
Awesome. I mean, so is this going to be your last event this year?
I'm still not sure. I'm in the running for the Next Gen Finals race, which will be in Saudi Arabia at the end of the year. So maybe that, or I might have a couple more challengers in Mexico, depending on everything. Okay,
awesome. I mean, you might have a busy end of the season.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask next is, I mean, do you have any sort of like, I mean, short-term goals, I think, would be getting to Next Gen Finals for you, but what other either short-term goals do you have, or maybe long-term goals for next year?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big short-term goal. Long-term goals are just to keep improving and keep getting physically stronger, because that's going to be a huge thing for me going forward, just to be able to last week in, week out, play matches every day, and hopefully I can be in the main draw of Grand Slams next year, and that'll be 3 out of 5 sets, which will require even greater physical capacity. So I think that's a big goal for me this off-season and this preseason and moving forward. But yeah, and just to keep enjoying it and have fun.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you're in the quarterfinals of this event here, and good luck. That would be really great if you make it to the next gen finals.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Nishesh Basavareddy, that celebration telling you all you need to know.
2 sets allowed, 6-1.
Into the Australian Open main draw, winning the USTA's Australian Open Wildcard Challenge in dominant fashion here today into the final in Champaign, 1-1. Nishesh has done it. He's headed to Melbourne with the main draw berth as well.